Ugh, okay, I can't keep quiet about this anymore, so let's talk about it. Today, we need to discuss the most recent blunder by Dungeons & Dragons and WotC. But before we do, I want to ask you guys a question. Do you remember a little thing called Sigil VTT? Remember that super ambitious virtual tabletop that D&D was constantly advertising on their website and shoving in front of the public at events like Gen Con when it was in alpha? Yeah, well, did you guys also happen to know that it was released a little over a month ago? Well, neither did anyone else, but they did do that, and you can go on D&D Beyond right now and download it as long as you have an account. And I thought that Sigil had some pretty cool ideas and features, but we'll talk about all that in a little bit because there's something else that I want to talk about, or more so rant about, regarding this VTT that the rest of the gaming industry has been doing, and it's really sad to see that D&D has started doing this with their virtual tabletops, releasing them unfinished or incomplete. Sigil has had the probably worst release I've ever seen a virtual tabletop have in the about 10 years or so that I've been playing D&D online. It was quiet, it was sudden, and not to mention that Sigil has some of the most insane PC requirements for the average person, especially for a VTT, out of any virtual tabletop that I've ever seen. So Sigil was basically dead on arrival. Oh, and if I haven't mentioned it already, everything that they promised this VTT would have on release, such as a character creator, map builder, and automation features, are there, which is good. But the features themselves are not good, nor are they complete.
You can also bring in any character from D&D Beyond, and it will bring in all of your equipment and all of your abilities and spells.
Yeah, that's just false. Not everything that's on D&D Beyond can be imported into Sigil as it currently is, which really limits the characters that you create because you have to build them around the very limited amount of items that are actually in Sigil.
The level builder is sort of like the best miniature set that you could have.
Well, my miniature sets don't do whatever the heck this is. I mean, like, there are graphical glitches everywhere. When using their building tools in a normal way, the snapping is very inconsistent, the key bindings are confusing, and the level building is also confusing to use, in my opinion at least.
And we also have a thing we're calling the mini maker, different scales, sizes, the look of it.
And then you can go back to your character and redress them up over and over again.
Yeah, I don't know about over and over again. The character creator, while it does work, is pretty lackluster and has very limited options. Just use Hero Forge. All in all, Sigil VTT, as it is right now, is a great alpha or beta version of a 3D virtual tabletop, which makes it all the more frustrating that WotC didn't give the dev team more time to work on this before they decided to just dump the project altogether. But even still, I don't think it's in the best spot right now, and even back when they showcased it at Gen Con, which was meant to be in the most perfect ideal setting with the perfect conditions to showcase using their VTT like any normal GM would, which was for combat, they had to use powerful gaming laptops, and the people watching this event live didn't seem too hyped about what they saw. So for those of you who don't know, there was a pretty big event at Gen Con where a star-studded cast played D&D, and the people on this cast were creators or actors who at least 1 out of every 5 D&D nerds could recognize, and it was all put on by D&D to showcase their new virtual tabletop. So needless to say, it was a pretty big event. I thought that the adventure was fantastic and super fun, and the cast were amazing during the entire event, but towards the second half, they showcased Sigil. I honestly thought it was pretty cool, and I was excited to see what Sigil had to offer, and perhaps some of you guys saw my shorts talking about the potential that Sigil had. But for a lot of us, I think we understood that this showcase was in alpha or beta at this point, so we were expecting at least a little bit of bugs or lags. But what this event showcased more than anything, at least what I think it did, and what I think a lot of people's takeaway from this event was that Sigil is still kind of a buggy and laggy mess, which didn't deter me because, again, I accepted that Sigil was still in development at this point, and having all these flashy animations, fire effects, and miniatures, and people connected to a single map takes its toll on any virtual tabletop, if not the computer running that virtual tabletop, as I'm sure those of us who are familiar with VTTs and running large groups on VTTs know very well. But evidently the crowd, as you can kind of tell in the YouTube video, were not that impressed with Sigil, and after what I can only assume were the Hasbro corpos hearing about these bad reviews, D&D Suits decided to buy a one-way ticket for Sigil's ride to a farm back east. And they did this by firing 90% of the dev team, effectively bringing the entire project to a screeching halt. And now that the unfinished project is officially accessible to anyone with a D&D Beyond account, everyone and anyone can see exactly how unfinished it is, effectively destroying any remaining excitement or hype for the project. But what's kind of frustrating about this whole thing is that I got into the closed beta for Sigil and was in the process of making a video about Sigil and comparing it and reviewing it to another 3D VTT that's currently out there called Tailspire, and I wanted to see how they held up, and I was going to run an adventure both in Tailspire and Sigil for my close friends and see how they compared it as well. But I began to see the writing on the wall when D&D quietly and abruptly released Sigil on D&D Beyond, so I stopped all my plans and waited for the inevitable news to arrive. And sure enough, about a week or so later, we start to get news articles and leaks talking about how D&D is shifting away from Sigil, and how there was development issues, and how they effectively wasted $30 million on its development, all for naught. So let me be the first, if not the second person to say that I was entirely wrong. My prediction, like what many other people were predicting, was that Sigil was going to be closely tied to D&D's success, because based on all the information that we now know and moves that WotC have taken in the recent past, it seemed like Hasbro and WotC were betting the farm on Sigil's success, because they were planning on making Sigil their new D&D cash cow by filling it full of microtransactions, cosmetics, and multi-tiered subscriptions, all to better monetize D&D. And I mean, can you blame me? I mean, when you see how much money they've already put into Sigil, and you see all the frankly really cool features that they've implemented, like D&D Beyond integration, dice rolling automation, and cool animations and map building mechanics that they were implementing, not to mention that they were putting it in front of a lot of people, you can't help but suspect that this would be the future of D&D. I also just feel terrible for the dev team for Sigil, because I can't even imagine what it would feel like to have 90% of your development team cut for what was essentially corporate greed, especially because if you actually go and give Sigil an honest try, you can see the vision that the team had and how they were planning on implementing and fleshing out their own style and mechanics to distinguish itself from other VTTs. So I can't help but get a little upset when a frankly really cool product that has a lot of potential with a good development team gets canned for what was essentially just some corpos getting upset online that some people said some mean things about their product when they showed it to the public when it was basically in alpha, if not barely in beta. But of course, now that the cat's out of the bag, we now know that there were workplace issues like miscommunication, no shared vision between the devs and the higher ups, and suits not understanding how to make a good product and sell it to a community that they have no connection to. So basically all the classic game development issues. And this is the kicker for me, and it honestly kind of explains everything that possibly went wrong behind the scenes with Sigil, because evidently some WotC or Hasbro higher-ups, when given Sigil, couldn't distinguish a VTT from a video game, and they didn't care to know the difference. And while I completely acknowledge that there are people out there besides greedy corpos that see VTTs as video games, which is perfectly fine, and some of you are probably watching this video right now, for a lot of people who don't have the privilege or opportunity to play their favorite TTRPG in person, virtual tabletops are more than a video game. It's a creative space where they can join their friends and game masters online to play their favorite role-playing game, or at least the role-playing game that their game master forces them to play. And I feel like that would actually be a really good topic for discussion. So if you want to see me make a video talking about the differences between a VTT and a video game, then hey, leave a comment down below. But to get back on topic, that brings up something else that I thought was a bit peculiar about the whole Sigil situation, because a while back when they first announced Project Sigil, D&D officially partnered with other big virtual tabletops like Roll20 and Foundry, and through these partnerships, these VTTs saw massive overhauls to their D&D system, complete with new automation features, level up tools, themed character sheets and tokens, the full 9 yards. But now that we know what we know, I now see all these partnerships as something more like safety nets, I would say, because D&D suits probably never had any real faith in Sigil and decided to enter into these official partnerships with VTTs as a way to secure their foothold in the online community should their own VTT projects fail. And I mean, as far as we know, they pretty much all have. But like, oh my gosh, do you remember Maps? Do you even know what I'm talking about? It's D&D Beyond's top-down virtual tabletop that they released like a long time ago, and it's still in development, and it still sucks? Like, oh my gosh. I mean, like, when compared to other virtual tabletops, it sucks, but it's perfectly fine by itself, I guess. And sure, Maps and Sigil still technically have a dev team and are still supposed to get updates, but I mean, at this point, does anyone still believe that they'll get good, consistent updates? Because I sure don't. I personally think that WotC and Hasbro and D&D by extension are done with VTTs, because I thought Sigil was going to be their chance and they took their shot and they missed. I was holding out hope for Sigil, I really was, because I like virtual tabletops and I was genuinely excited to see D&D, the biggest brand in the TTRPG space, making and taking a crack at their own 3D virtual tabletop. But after all of this, now I feel like the brand of D&D is just becoming, or at least for those of us who are chronically online and have our finger on the pulse of TTRPG news, the brand that is known for failed projects and controversies. But regardless, what the Sigil failure showcases yet again is that WotC or Hasbro or D&D executives, or maybe all of them together, lack a vision for D&D going forward. And at this point, it's just getting embarrassing, because despite WotC being best known for making strategy games, in recent memory I can't think of a single good move that they have taken besides partnering with Roll20 and Foundry and putting third-party content on D&D Beyond. But now that we have all this information, and since hindsight is 2020, what do you guys think WotC should have done with Sigil or even D&D 2024? Do you think that they should have even developed Sigil in the first place, or do you think they should have focused on partnering with other virtual tabletops and building that trust? Do you think D&D 2024 should be the last version of D&D? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below. I always enjoy reading them. But hey, as always, everybody, thank you so much for watching, and if you like this video, be sure to leave a like, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take it easy. Bye-bye.